Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Santa Rosa County Board of County Commission committee meeting. It's July 22nd. It's approximately 9 a.m. Please take a second to silence your telephones or other communication devices. Put them on vibrate. And if you would, please stand and we'll open our meeting. Father, we thank you for the privilege of joining together to run our own affairs. We pray that the things that are said here today and done here today will be pleasing in your sight. We ask in Jesus' name, amen. Mr. Williamson, will you lead us in pledge?
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. Start at my right. Commissioner Williamson, do you have anything, additions?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief update on our annual farm tour, which occurred last week.
Yes, sir. Where would you like to put that?
Number 2 on economic development.
All right, sir. We'll make that number 2 as farm tour update.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lynchard.
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Economic Development, Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, this time I'd like to ask Shannon Ogletree, who is the county's economic development director, to come forward. He's going to introduce someone from Enterprise Florida, and they're going to give us an update on Enterprise Florida, some activities, and then Shannon's going to give us an update on some local economic development activities as well. Shannon.
Correct. Thank you, sir. Yes, I'd like to introduce Sharon Spratt with Enterprise Florida. She's the manager of legislative affairs for Enterprise Florida. She works out of Tallahassee, and she's our go-to person for policies that are going through the chambers over in Tallahassee. So with no further ado, we'd like to introduce Sharon.
Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you very much. And I do have a presentation I can provide copies. In order to keep it under my, I believe, 5 minutes? No, time limit, I'll speak quickly, which of course is not usual for somebody from the South. But again, my name is Sharon Spann. I'm in Legislative Affairs with Enterprise Florida. This year, thankfully, while there was the usual hundreds of bills filed, in the economic development world, there were blissfully quite a few, not very many, that passed or actually even moved. So there's not a lot to update you this year on. Let's see, next slide. Okay. Hopefully you have copies. I know it's kind of hard to see online. Basically, this year, most of the legislation got compiled into 2 bills. The first one was a House bill, which was done by the committee, 7007. As you can see, there's 3 main items. One was the removal of the sales tax on machinery and equipment for manufacturing. This was Governor Scott's top priority this year, and how that changes from last year or the year before. Unlike any other state in the Southeast and most of the United States, Florida charged sales tax on machinery and equipment for manufacturing. And we did have an exemption if you could prove that you produced productivity by 10%, which is obviously somewhat cumbersome and burdensome to businesses. Last year we lowered that to 5%. This year we pushed for the complete removal of that. The legislature didn't quite go all the way there. They're meeting us, we'll say, halfway. They're going to give us 3 years to prove that this sales tax will increase manufacturing in the state of Florida. It doesn't actually start till 2014, so they kind of kick the can a little bit down the road for the fiscal impact. But we're hoping at the end of 3 years that we can prove that the removal of this sales tax is beneficial to the manufacturing industry in Florida, particularly some of our smaller counties, particularly in the Panhandle with a lot of competition from Alabama. We'll be able to recruit more manufacturing into Florida. 2 other parts of this bill included the codification of the DEO incentives portal in an effort to increase transparency on the incentives. I'm sure you've all seen some of the articles that were written on the state incentive process. DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity, created this portal, and it's online. You can go, you can look at every single county, you can look at by company, and you can see what incentives they've received from the state since the inception of incentives in 1995. So I think we've gone a long way to protect businesses who want to keep some of their information safe, but still meet the citizens' demand for increased transparency and increased accountability in the incentive process. Also, there were some additional reporting requirements for EFI, DO. We're used to it, so we'll just run with it, and it does not require any additional staffers. Also included in that were a couple of other pieces of legislation, but the next bill, 406, also included those. Everything I just talked about was also in 406. So they kind of stacked their bets there and made sure that if one of them passed or if one of them didn't, we did get our items. Some other items that were included in this that are important was the creation of a fund for Major League Baseball, spring training events, facilities. And basically, Florida competes very highly with Arizona for spring training. And I know we're not quite got them up here in North Florida yet, but that doesn't mean we can't. But what happened is every time we were up for competition, they'd come to the legislature and say, we need money. So instead of just every time meeting this, saying, okay, is it worthy or not, we've actually created a trust fund that has dedicated funding, but we also set up pretty stringent requirements, which includes local government matching, 30-year contracts for the franchises, and so we've added, again, a theme this year, accountability to the money that the state's using to bring in these spring training games, but also, again, makes us more competitive against Arizona. In the next 2 years, we have 5 teams that are up to lose, and it's a pretty large impact on the state's tourism dollars. Additional language in this was tightening of the brownfield language, kind of for incentives, trying to keep it a little more to the original intent. Back when Senator Jack Latvala initially established the programs, we continue the new markets sales tax program. Additionally, some important things with aircraft, rotary aircraft repair and maintenance tax exemptions, natural gas used in fuel sales tax exemptions, and for everybody else, the best part of the sales tax, back to school sales tax exemption. So that was also included in this large package. The next piece of legislation, expedited manufacturing approval process, is pretty unique. So when we're looking, again, at increasing Florida's business competitiveness, business climate, manufacturing comes to play over and over and over again. Manufacturing companies are coming back to the United States, onshoring, inshoring. In the South, again, we lose a lot of these projects to Alabama and Georgia. One of these reasons is time to business. And when a company decides where they want to go, they want to obviously start operating as early as possible. Permits, as you know, are sometimes cumbersome on the state level. We hear around the state, sometimes on the county level as well. Never here, of course. So what this does is this allows local governments to take part of this certification site. And basically, although the rules are not written, Department of Economic Opportunity is doing that, local governments can choose to say, we want to recruit manufacturing to our county. And we're so on board with this that we're willing to designate sites so that we have expedited approval, we have infrastructure ready, and there's various levels of the certification. And Enterprise Florida then, any manufacturing company that comes to us and says we're interested in looking at Florida, we'll provide them that list and we'll say, great, just so you know, these local governments have decided to participate in this manufacturing certification process. Take a look at them. If any of those meet your needs, that's great, and we'll work with you on that. So it's a really good opportunity for smaller counties to really start playing in these games with some of these manufacturing facilities. Let's see. Next, 446. Something that, as you are very much aware, is legislation isn't always about passing bills. It's not always about keeping good things rolling. A lot of times it's about stopping legislation that can hurt your cause. For us this year, it was the surety bonds, or 446. And this bill would have required companies who received any cash incentives, such as quick action closing, to take out surety bonds. The concept, which was very good, let's make sure the state taxpayer dollars are protected, so that if a company doesn't fulfill their promises to the state, then we have some kind of recourse to recoup some money back. And while that is a great idea, the way that it was put into place with this legislation would have caused Florida a lot of issues when trying to recruit. First, it adds additional loss on their bottom P&L statements, and when they're going for loans or they're looking at their bottom line. Second, again, it's another layer of government red tape. And third, if you look at the projects that Florida has used since Governor Scott and Secretary of Commerce Grace Swope have come in, we don't generally lose a lot of money. Most of the projects that come in are very well vetted. They don't receive cash up front anymore. They have to prove, they have to put down their money in their capital investment, and they actually have to create jobs before they receive their payments. So while we are taking our own steps to ensure the state tax dollars are protected, this was a piece of legislation that caused us a lot of concern, and I'm happy to report that it did not pass this year, although I suspect we'll see it again next year. Updated approval for the Innovation Incentive Fund. Again, when we're looking at the speed of business, we want to make things as smooth as possible. This particular incentive requires a convening of the whole Legislative Budget Commission, whether it is during session or not. And so it greatly decreases the time or increases the time that we're able to offer companies an approval on their incentives, an approval for their project, and get them into Florida up and running and creating jobs. So we were looking to move this more in line with the other incentive processes, which have a tier based on the amount, so the governor could approve, legislative staff, or finally a legislative budget commission if it was over $5 million. This did not pass this year either, but again, we're hoping to bring it back. I think I skipped over two real quick. One is military installations. As we're preparing for BRAC 2015, also mini BRACs that happen without an official BRAC, we've really got to look at what we can do to protect our installations and our bases. One of the things Florida is known for is the Florida Forever program and our ability to buy conservation lands that surround bases. However, we did not have the ability to buy non-conservation lands. So if it wasn't considered an environmental protection issue, Florida did not have the ability to purchase this land. We now have that ability. It was not funded this year. We're hoping next year, again, as we're getting closer to what we assume will be the 2015 BRAC, that we'll get some funding in this, and it will make a big difference in several of the bases around the state. Also, when we're looking at defense and space contractors, we were able to remove the award cap for their incentive awards that they could get for QTI and QDSC. As many of you know, when defense contractors are bidding their projects to the federal government, lowest bid often wins. And if they've hit that cap in Florida and can't use those to lower their bid, we lose those projects every time. So removing this cap, again, makes Florida more competitive in these defense contracts. I will not read to you the funding. You have that before you. But overall, even though, again, it was a tight budget year, most of our funding lines stayed pretty similar. We did get a slight increase in operation dollars to help with international export assistance. We did lose a significant amount of dollars in our incentive funding, however. So what that means for everyone across the state is that projects are going to be more critically looked at, and those who we can get the most bang for our buck, obviously will have a higher priority when we're going forward. We will obviously request more funding for that in the next year. The only other item to look at is the big project fund. The governor requested $173 million. And this is for people, we get the questions about this a lot. This is for those projects that are game changers for the state, not just in a region, but for the state. And we didn't have one on the table necessarily, so you have to kind of estimate how much money you may need to win those kind of projects. But they require a pretty quick turnaround, and so we wanted to have that money in the backup funding. The legislature did not appropriate that this year, but I think we're making headway in getting them to understand the incentive process as we move forward. Next year, right now, we're working on our legislative agenda. We're working with our partners and stakeholders to see what you and the counties need, what help we can offer legislatively. The sunset of the Enterprise Zone program is slated for 2015. I believe talks will begin this year on that. There's quite a lot of discussion. I don't think there's currently the appetite for the renewal of the program legislatively. So that's something that we're going to have to talk about and make sure that when we move towards getting it renewed, that it is a program that actually works. And of course, we expect continuing examination of our incentives and how they're used and the funding that we receive for them. That was very quick, I think. I hope probably over 5 minutes. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Sharing a couple of questions and a comment. I know y'all do, but when you get south of Jacksonville, economic development competition changes greatly
Absolutely.
because you don't have any borders in that part of the state.
Right.
Obviously up here, Georgia and Alabama, and especially Alabama. As y'all go through this process each year of looking at the rules and regulations in the state of Florida, do you ever put them down on a table and compare them to Alabama?
Actually, we do, and I can send this to Shannon and give to y'all. Every year at the end of session, we sit down and we look what every state in the United States, and obviously we pay much more closer attention to our competitor states, and see what they've done to make themselves more competitive. The manufacturing site certification, Alabama did that this year. So, and there was one more that they did this year that we did last year. So we're watching, we're paying attention, and when we are able, we push that in the legislature to, match them, if not surpass them.
Yeah, they doing mega sites in Alabama now. They've gone home from sites. They're doing mega sites.
Yes, and that was not even a word in, I would think, most of our nomenclatures 2-3 years ago. Now it's on every meeting. So mega site certification is definitely something that EFI is working with. We're working with the sites database so that, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, a majority of people, when they're looking, if they're relocating to a state, a lot of times they've chosen before they even started to talk to somebody in Florida, and it's because that information's online. And so we need to make sure every county is able to have that information online as well.
Also, House Bill 357 creates a model ordinance for local government looking to recruit manufacturing. You're talking about working to help create that ordinance?
Yes.
Are y'all working closely with our local utility, Gov Power Company, because they're going through a site certification now?
Correct. And how that is going to work, the Department of Economic Opportunity is actually the one who's going to be in charge of this particular project and certification process. So right now, they've started rulemaking, and they're going to work with, utilities are important across the state on this. So the utilities, the local economic developers, as well as current manufacturers, DEP obviously has a huge role, the water management districts and the local government with the permitting to develop criteria and a system, and then they will present that, and then as with typical rulemaking, you have your time for comments and back and forth, but we're hoping to get this through within under a year.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we appreciate you being here today, and hopefully Shannon and any of us throughout the course of the year will be in contact with you.
Well, thank you, and again, if you ever need anything, or you're coming to Tallahassee and need to talk to somebody, let us know, and we'll get you in.
One thing that I'd like for you to leave with, as you go about looking at this, creating this ordinance, a lot of times, especially your smaller counties, we struggle sometimes with getting infrastructure to some of our sites. I know that there are some grants out there to help, but we probably need to look closer at that on having the state help us better with getting water, sewer, infrastructure to those sites.
Right, you can have the best location, but if you don't have the infrastructure, it doesn't matter. So I know I just recently completed a rural study, and obviously your county doesn't fall under that, but infrastructure comes up again and again. And so the state's aware, looking at not only rural counties, but smaller counties and what we can do to help them in those endeavors.
Appreciate what you did. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Shannon?
Thank you, Sharon. And I have just a brief presentation to just show some of the projects we're working on at the moment. As you may be aware, the Gov Power site certification process kicked off earlier this spring. The first 3 items we have completed. We actually have McCallum Sweeney coming in on August the 1st, sitting down with us, and we will be walking the site that day so they can get a feel for it, basically. And then afterwards, later in September, they will be sending us a letter stating whether or not if the sites we submitted will be moving forward. And Santa Rosa County had more sites submitted than any other county. We had 5 of the 12 submitted, and 3 of ours were the publicly owned by Santa Rosa County. And so this moving forward, like I said, the consultants will be on August the 1st, walking the sites and talking with us and the utility providers for each of those sites. And also in relation to what Sharon was saying, we're hoping once the sites are certified, we'll overlay the House Bill 357 on top of this, so that we can say we have a certified site, plus it's ready to be, it's permitted and ready to roll, is my intentions. Currently, we have basically 17 active projects in the pipeline. Six are customer contact centers, all the way down to 1 is a potential company expansion. This is just a basic breakdown of the types of companies we're seeing. As Sharon stated, manufacturing, we're starting to see more manufacturing come in. 6 of those manufacturing are from California, actually. So California-based companies are looking to escape California and come to Florida. It's smaller-based companies. They're looking at it based upon the quality of life. The climate is the same as certain towns in California, just a little bit more humid here. So, Roger. Here's just a further breakdown of the 3 different types of projects. As you can tell, the customer contact centers, call centers, they typically pay a little bit less average wage than the other 2 sectors. 85% of the average annual wage. The companies that are looking at the former Clearwater facility located in the Santa Rosa Industrial Park. We have asset, we're really trying to promote it. It's a 77,000 square foot facility, and currently 6 different companies / site consultants are looking at that facility. Roger. And this is just as of recent. This has just been in the past week. I've received information requests and proposals from these type of companies. As of Friday, it was a site consultant wanting a 15 to 20,000 square foot plug-and-play facility. The question was, can they divide up the former Clearwater facility at the Santa Rosa Industrial Park? And the last one is a manufacturing facility working with a site consultant out of Dallas. They have a client that's looking at a manufacturing facility, and that is $1 billion, not $1 million capital investment for this project. And once again, all these projects are just leads. I don't consider these projects yet. These are people just wanting information requests. They're looking for reasons to basically discard us. So it's our goal to stay in the hunt and stay in the mix for these guys. And especially for the last one, I've been in constant contact with that site consultant out of Texas. And that is it. Any questions?
Okay, appreciate the update. And my final comment would be go get them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and we have one more, the farm tour update.
Oh, yeah, I forgot, excuse me. Last Thursday, Commissioner Melvin and I attended our annual farm tour, and much to our surprise and delight, the farm tour committee wanted to recognize the Santa Rosa County Board of County Commissioners for our support over the many years, so they presented us with a nice plaque, and I just want to share that with my fellow commissioners today and staff. And it was presented to the Santa Rosa County Board of County Commissioners, Commissioner Bob Cole, Lane Lynchard, Jim Melvin, Don Salter, and Jim Williamson, in grateful appreciation for your support and recognition of agriculture and the farming community of Santa Rosa County, presented on this 18th day of July 2013, and it was by the Santa Rosa County Farm Tour Committee. And they just, here again, wanted us to know how much they appreciate their support in one of our largest industries in Santa Rosa County, and that's agriculture. And I know Commissioner Melvin, I think, tasked the tour all day long out in the heat, so it wasn't his first time, but he got to see firsthand a lot of our great farms and the families who work so hard and diligently to make sure we have food on our table every morning to eat. So don't forget about our farmers and our agriculture community and how important it is to our county and to our region. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Oliver. Yeah, that was not my first tour. I started when we were doing it in school buses, and that's tough. You really had to want to know what was going on in the north end of the county. I, too, have omitted polling the staff about changes to the agenda, and I happen to know there's a couple out there, so.
I think there are two on primarily the engineering.
Okay, you want to go? Okay, I will just add them when we get there. All right, Administrative Committee, item number 1 is discussion. First of all, the Economic Development Committee requires no action from us. That's information, so we won't need to carry that Thursday. Item number 1 is discussion proposal from HOK Incorporated regarding the proposed judicial facility, and we have a presentation.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet is the presentation that Mr. Broad with HOK Incorporated is going to present. This is kind of a follow-on to your workshop that was held a couple of weeks ago regarding the proposed judicial facility.
Good morning, Duncan Broyd, HOK. What I'd like to do as a follow-up, as Hunter Walker said, is to go through what we believe is a reasonable scope of services to get you to a point where you can go to the public to promote doing a courthouse for Santa Rosa County. There's obviously a lot of different services we could provide, but what I'd like to walk through is what we think is a good idea, and then discuss with you what we could do. I have Mike Broussard with me here from Hatchmont McDonald, civil and structural engineers, but there's probably some things that you can do with your own staff in-house as well to help the process through so that we give you what you need. 3 fundamental phases: site selection, some preliminary design and cost estimating, and then going through the process of public presentations and meetings. But the one thing that I'd like to start with is understanding, this is going to sound like an understatement, courthouse projects go for a long time. This is 13 years in on this project for me. It's important that we have some people identified on the project to go through it that provide continuity in the decision-making and how we move forward with the project. And we've done a number of county courthouses around the state, and the ones that have gone well are where a small group of people have been identified early on who have taken the thing from start to finish. That's really entirely up to you as to who gets involved in that. As I said, smallish group obviously is better, but it needs to be hopefully people that can go from start to finish. And that could be a combination of members of the commission and some of the key users in the building. Might be worthwhile, but I put that in your hands to come up with that group. That group also, we'll end up working in a lot of detail with a lot of people in the clerk's office, the court administrator, state attorney, other people, but there are times when we need to elevate some of those decisions that need to be made to a higher group for the benefit of the whole project. Next slide, yeah. Site selection and identification. We had gone through that process and helped you out a number of years ago, but obviously we could design a courthouse on a generic site, but if we know what the site is, what the access is going to be like, what stormwater is like, traffic, parking, all of those things, we can get you a more accurate number and a more precise definition of the project. This is probably one of the areas where county staff can probably work alongside Hatchmont McDonald to decide shortlisting of sites, and then the analysis that needs to happen to understand, are they viable sites for a courthouse? Fairly technical issue. So next one, please. We went through the program early 2012. There were still some unanswered questions when we submitted that to you as to precisely who would be in a new building. Some of that depends ultimately on where the site would be. You've got a pretty efficient state attorney's office in this building. At that time, there were some discussions to whether they would be in the building or not. We had met with the clerk's office, and there were some conversations about who absolutely needed to be in the courthouse and who would be better served in other locations, but we have to bring that back to the table and define all those issues again, make sure that we've got complete buy-in. It happens, unfortunately, county courthouses. We can get through halfway through the design and somebody will stick their hand up and say, why aren't I there? Or I don't really need to be there, and that can be pretty disruptive to the process. We do also, in defining a budget and a site, need to understand what your growth expectations are for the project. I mean, we'll do some analysis of growth within the program, but are you building this building to be expanded in the future? Are you building it to do some expansion internally, where you might build a shell for a portion of the building and grow into it? There is no right or wrong way. We've done it many different ways, but just to get when we worked on Brevard County many years ago, they wanted to build the building just to meet the needs the day they opened, to keep the cost down to absolute minimum, but we built it to expand, and 8 years later, they expanded it. But again, that's a decision that we can help you with. Next one. Okay, preliminary design. Courthouses are very important public buildings. We can solve the technical problem working with the clerk, the court administrator, those people, of getting the plans right and very operational. But the image that you want to send with this building, the message you want to send to the public, is very important. And we'd like to sit down with a group of people and talk about that before we start. It's about budget. It's about how you use taxpayers' money. This is a very public building. And again, we would much rather design a building that works with you and your goals than design a building and find that it's over budget and people don't like it. It's not a good process. So we typically like to start that with probably a half a day or a whole day session where we literally get as many people in the room together and work through what everybody's expectations are, stick photographs on the wall of different types of buildings and just test everybody's appetite. Next. Oh, sorry, Hunter. Can I just go back one more? The last thing on the list there, how do you deliver this project when you ultimately go out or you want to build it? Many different ways: design, build, design, bid, build, multiple models of construction management. Again, everybody's done it differently. The construction market, it seems, probably bottomed out about a year or so ago. There was some incredible value in projects. Plant City did an incredibly good value for money courthouse that we're very proud of. Things are starting to pick up a little bit now, but I do think that if you have sufficient time, getting the job to the market and getting competitive prices is probably going to get you the best value ultimately. But again, we should test all those different ideas. Then we get to the public presentation phase of it. We need to be able to go with you, with members of the court, the clerk's office, to the public and show them what they're getting for their potential vote. It's important that we have a concise, clear package. We had gone through this process in 2000, and I think we have certainly learned the kind of presentation materials and the kinds of things you need for public meetings can be orchestrated accordingly. We do at that time obviously need to work through very precisely what the budget is. Public money spent needs to be as clear and concise as possible, but there's construction costs, but that is only one very small part of the budget. Things like furniture, operating costs, all those things need to factor in a total budget. Next one, Hunter. So this is what we propose to deliver to you. Basic site plans to describe the building. These are not drawings that are ready to go to permit by any stretch of imagination. These are illustrative drawings to help explain what's going on. Floor plans. The floor plans will work in a lot of detail. It's important for us and the users to know where every single room in the building is, how they get to them, and then ultimately sign off. It's again important in selling this thing to the public that the entire user group is on board and supportive of the scheme. We'll do sections and elevations to explain the building. We always also like to do the courtroom layouts very early. Courtrooms can be many different sizes. You know from what you currently have. There's many different sizes of courtrooms. It's the big driver of how big the building is and how it works. So we actually like to get that figured out early so that everybody's comfortable that if we've got traffic court and drug court and domestic violence court in the building, we know how they work and we don't have to change it later. And then the pictures, the artist rendering, the information that ultimately gets in the newspaper, get sufficient of those done so that you've got a very descriptive view of what you're spending. We'll describe all the engineering systems that relate to the site, utilities, all of those kinds of things, all of the building construction materials. This will just be narrative report. It won't be specifications. We'll also talk about the MEP and engineering systems in the building. What your fuel bills are per year, what your utility costs per year are very important. We'll describe all of those so that the cost estimator can give you a better than just a ballpark number. They can get a really quite refined number. And then develop an overall project schedule. We have anticipated that if we got to go ahead, we could get a fee proposal back to you very, very quickly. If we could get started now or within the next few weeks, we could get through this process by the end of the year to enable you then to have the rest of 2014 to get out there and sell. But the critical thing obviously will be zeroing in a site for us to be able to work on it. So I think that, Hunter? Yes, there's the schedule. The program verification we can do while you're doing site selection. That can run parallel, and then we just have to wait until we say, this is the one we want to work with. So if you have any questions or comments or other things that you'd like studied, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, sir. Comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, the one thing that I can appreciate the need for a steering committee. I think we've kind of identified a steering committee as 5 of y'all. I mean, I think that the decisions that Mr. Broad's talking about, I think really need to be, to add another group in here just kind of would be more noise and echo. I think it just, these guys are going to be the ones that need to make the hard decisions on the budget, phasing, what are going to be the kind of things that you want to do instead of handling that twice, because everything's going to have to be approved ultimately by these guys anyway. That seems like to me the easiest way to do it. Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Walker. I think, we kicked this off with a workshop a couple of weeks ago. I think that's the process that we're going to have to continue to follow if we want to meet this, what I believe is an expedited timeline. I mean, it doesn't seem that because it's over a year off before we would be bringing this in front of the voters, but we won't even have the numbers back, and design and everything until the end of the year. And that's provided that we go ahead and get started August 1st. So I appreciate the work that they've done in the past and the proposal you've put together, and I look forward to working over the next few months to come up with a viable plan that we can present to the people next year.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. And hearing no further discussion from the board, I'll move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Okay. Item number 2, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is discussion of the Navarre Beach Turtle Center Conservation Center. Ms. Kathy Holmes.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet is Ms. Holmes' presentation, and we've been working through this with the Turtle Center, and I think you'll be pleased with kind of where we are.
Thank you. Where we're at right now on this preliminary cost estimate, for this second slide here, we came back with bids from several people. One of the things that we've been very, very pleased and happy with is we have been able to keep everyone, as far as any of our contractors, subcontractors, anybody, they've been in Santa Rosa County. They've been Santa Rosa County businesses, and we're very pleased with that. The only thing that we've had to go out of Santa Rosa County for has been some of our specialized equipment, which we can't get here. They don't manufacture here. Now, the total that we've got right now on that 98.5 is probably going to change for the better. We expect that to go down a little bit because, like I said, these are preliminary cost estimates, and we have some other people that are involved with us at this time. So that's what we're looking at right now. We would like to get started on the addition and getting the pool in and everything as quickly as possible. We have been working on the inside of the building for really seriously over the past 2 or 3 months, and the whole inside of the building looks, it's a totally different building, and it looks great. And while we were out there actually working, we have had so many people stop by, and we've actually opened our doors to do some programs already. Last week we had the Boys and Girls Club in Okaloosa County come through, and we did a sea turtle presentation for them. Even though we don't have sea turtles, we have a little interpretive center with interactive type displays, and it's been a very positive experience for us. And we were also contacted by UWF in their biology department, and we will be going out there and making a presentation not just on sea turtles, but on the Conservation Center. They're very interested in what's happening at the Conservation Center. And hopefully, I think that's coming up in August. So if we could go, next slide, please. This is what we've had in donations, fundraising, and in-kind services. And actually, our donations and fundraising since we did these slides has increased another $1,500 just from people donating. And we have a lot of people in the community that are doing fundraising for us, and we're not even aware of it, which is kind of a neat thing, but they call us after the fact that we've been chosen and they're doing fundraising for us. So that's where this additional money has come in over just this last couple weeks. And we were thrilled, amazed, and humbled by the fact that we received the most votes in Santa Rosa County for the Santa Rosa County 2013 time capsule for the Viva Florida 500. We were just floored by that we didn't even realize that people were voting for us. Didn't know that was going on. So I think this is going to be really good for the community. I think it's going to be great for the turtles. Also, we're starting to do a logbook because we don't charge anything for anybody that comes through or any of the programs that we're offering, or when we go out to the schools, there's no charge for that. But we're getting so many tourists through our front doors that we're actually going to start a logbook so we can track them. Right now we've been doing it on paper, and we've had, like, just in the past 2 weeks, over 50 people with their families coming through, doing little tours. So we're excited about that. I think the community's excited about that. I put an extra slide in here, reference the volunteer hours, because I did a lot of research on how we have a lot of volunteers. We are up to 80 volunteers. We have an amazing volunteer coordinator and an event coordinator, and we just keep getting volunteers, and everybody's active. Everybody's got their own specialties, and they're helping in all different areas. So to convert those hours, because we have so many, we actually use the independent sector, which is slide 4, because it seems like a lot of money, but they do this. Can you do the next? There we go. The independent sector is what everyone uses. I actually called Hurlburt Field because they have a huge volunteer program out there along with Eglin, just to make sure that I was on the right track. And so that's how we came up with that. I was asked to put some pictures in. So next slide. That's the east side of the building, and that's where the addition and the main pool will go. South side has a fence up because we already have 2 pools with filtration. We're going to have a very pretty mural that will be painted on that. You can't really see this, but wanted to put in the architectural plan on that. It's kind of hard to see. And that's one of our turtles, and we just say thank you. Kemp's Ridley that nested, so we're very pleased with that. So questions, concerns, comments?
Thank you very much for what you're doing. This is one of the most anticipated projects in Santa Rosa County. I hear it everywhere I go, and I know the other board members do as well. With the tourists piling through the building, I would suggest that we put a nice jar there for their consideration to add to it, like the Flight Museum and other areas do, strictly voluntary, of course. But keep us posted, and as you know, we have made District 4, I have made a commitment to this project, a financial commitment to it. So when we're to that point, then you need to let,
And we had actually
Going
talked
big.
about that on our Thursday meeting, and what we would like to request is 70,000 to get
Okay.
started with this project.
okay, is that part of this? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we will note for the record that that we received the briefing and that they're ready for $70,000, and I will move this to Thursday without objection, containing the $70,000 prep, and I do so without objection. Hearing none, passes. Item number 3 is discussion of the TDC grant allocation in the amount of $50,000 to support Navarre Beach Marine Science Center program as recommended by the Tourist Development Council. Mr. Walker.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in your packet is the, I guess it's the grant application that the Tourist Development Council uses, and this is the information supplied by Ms. Morrow and the Science Center. So, Ms. Morrow, I assume you want to make a presentation and kind of outline that, but they've got your I'm taking that to be the application packet that you submitted to TDC.
Is on behalf of our new 501c3 nonprofit, Northwest Florida Marine Edge.
Pardon me. We need your name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charlene Morrow, 3374 Crestview Lane, Gulf Breeze. Okay. This application is for Northwest Florida Marine Edge, and it is to start programming in the off-season geared towards out-of-town visitors coming to Santa Rosa County. What we see in our summer camps currently is 20% of our campers are from out-of-town guests. And we're also seeing, like Kathy said, people knocking on the door every day looking for programs to do for their children when they visit Navarre Beach. This grant would support programmings, and it would also help facilitate our goals of establishing the Gulf Coast Discovery Center with hopes to become a center for excellence in marine science education, which would open the door for Restore Funding Pot 5. So do you have any questions about the budget or? No.
Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you. I don't have any questions about the budget. I reviewed the proposal. It looks exciting to me. It's already been vetted by the TDC, and they've supported it. I think everything that's going on down there at the Marine Science Center is fantastic. It's such a great asset for all of the young people in Santa Rosa County. So I know my son enjoys it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Salter.
Charlene, the lady before you talk about the Turtle Center, is that part of your program as well? Are y'all connected?
We are not. We're two separate nonprofits. Okay. However, I'm on the board of directors for the Turtle Center, and what I would like to see is us working together once school programs start. As you know, local schools come out to the science station and do rotations and conservation-themed programs, and I'd like to see one of those rotations be at the Turtle Center, so we'll be working together with that.
Thanks.
And that's a great question, Commissioner Salter, and I appreciate it. There's 3 separate things down there that really are exciting to the public. There's Ms. Morrow's program, there's Ms. Holmes' program, and then there's the Reef program, and there are 3 separate not-for-profit organizations in the community, and it is a cooperative effort, but they're not under one single roof. Appreciate you bringing that up. If there's no further discussion, I'll move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4 is discussion of a waiver of a fee for children under 12 at Navarre Beach Fishing Pier during the month of October for a Kids Fish Free event as part of the Beaches to Woodlands tour. Have any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing no objection, it is moved to Thursday. Item number 5, discussion of the use of Navarre Park for the 19th Annual Christmas in the Park Jingle Fest sponsored by the Navarre Beach Area Chamber of Commerce for Saturday, December the 12th, 2013. There's no discussion from the board. Commissioner Litch, will you?
Mr. Chairman, going back, just one quick thing on item 4, the Take a Kid Fishing. I noticed on Ms. Sly's email, she also mentions an annual pass. But was that part of the request?
It wasn't, because I think that was to have been done this past weekend. I wasn't comfortable with the kind of giving away public money, so. But it's not. It's just the same action that you took last year on the waiver of fee.
Thank you. Just clarifying.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynchard. Item number 5 is the Navarre Park Jingle Fest and discussion by the board. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 6 is discussion of the annual designation of surplus property for disposal by the clerk of the courts. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you see the transmission from Mr. Spencer to me, and then I didn't put all the computer back up, but it outlines the departments and then the various things that had on our fixed asset inventory that is surplus or of no longer value, and they would dispose of it, pursuant to state law.
Thank you, sir. Those items are on the internet and available for the public's perusal. Any further discussion by the board? I move this Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 7 is discussion of the addition of a voluntary long-term disability policy at no cost to the county as recommended by the Director of Human Resources and Employee Benefits Group. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Chairman, you see in the email to me from Mr. Cook regarding this recommendation by the Employee Benefits Group. It's just adding the, a volunteer option for the employees on long-term disability.
Comments from the board? I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 8 is discussion of a contract with West Florida Recycling for recycling services in Santa Rosa County. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Chairman, this is an information item. As you know, we had entered into a contract with West Florida Recycling, Inc. Approximately a year ago, I believe a year in May, and they provide the full recycling services in Santa Rosa County. They're the transportation and the processing center. They've gone through some operational changes. They've had some site problems at their location. We are trying to work with them through some of these processes, but we're specifically having trouble on compliance with the contract, with the drop-off sites, and then the use of our processing center. So I don't know that there's going to be any particular action that we would ask the board to take this week. We may ask those folks to come before you in 2 weeks, and as we try to work through a plan, and failing that, trying to come up with some kind of contingency.
Do we need to continue this item to Thursday, or do we just consider this information only?
Yes, just information on. There's no action, as far as I know, that we would do for Thursday. Just I want you to be thinking about that, be looking around, and we'll be getting back Wednesday.
Okay. Ms. Jones, do you have any additional comments to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I recommend we move this to, no, it's information only, so we have been briefed. Item number 9 is public hearing scheduled for the 9:30 Thursday, July 25th, 2013, none. Concludes the administrative report, engineer's report. Mr. Blaylock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you would, we'd like to add items number 4 and 5. Number 4 would be a discussion of the preliminary plat For Pace Mill Creek Phase 3, I have a PowerPoint presentation. And then item number 5 would be a discussion of a bid award for the Phase 1 landfill gas collection and control at Central Landfill.
All right, sir. Thank you. Item number 1 is discussion of bids received for the Spencer Field Benny Russell Park Sidewalks Project, Attachment A.
Yes, we are recommending award of that to Panhandle Grading and Paving for the base bid and alternate number 1.
And would you read that for the record for the
Yes,
public?
that was
Can't see that.
$646,126.50, and that'll be our recommendation for Thursday's action. As low bidder, yes.
Discussion from the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Commissioner Saul.
just a comment. This is a great partnership between the county and the Department of the Navy, especially Whiting Field, and I just want to thank Captain Coughlin and all the folks at Whiting for working with us on this project, because without them, it would not have been possible.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner
While we're
Williamson.
thanking people, I'd also like to thank the engineering department for their diligent work on this project. They've stuck with it. It's been a long process, and absolutely, people in that area are excited about seeing it come to fruition. Thank you.
All right, sir. I recommend we move this item to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 2 is discussion of change order number 1 in the amount of $9,039.35 to Berkshire John Stone for the Tiger Point Community Center, Attachment B. Mr. Blaylock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, these are items that we highlighted specifically, working with the architect, the Tiger Point Committee, and Commissioner Lynchard in working through changing the color of the glass from the clear to gray, adding drywall in the concession and kitchen and bathrooms, the additional soil investigation to construct the foundation design. We added vinyl base to the concession kitchens and bathrooms. We have drywall, painting the drywall, and then the fire suppression upgrade. When we had to move our hood range from the old concession to the new one, that required code modifications. And so we
Commissioner Richard,
recommend
do you
this.
have anything to add?
No comments.
Any of the other commissioners have any comments? I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 3 is discussion of approval of construction plans for Heritage Oaks, a 40-lot subdivision of portion of Section 1 Township 2 South, Range 27 West, Santa Rosa County, Florida. That's in Working District 5. Mr. Blaylock.
Yes, sir. This is a set of construction plans for the subdivision you've seen a number of times. They're to a point they're seeking a development order, and we would have that for a tentative action. They may or may not be on Thursday's agenda, depending on whether they get all their final issues resolved. But we wanted to have it as a placeholder.
Comments from the board? Hearing none, we will move this to Thursday's agenda without objection, and if it's not ready, then we will just pass it by. Hearing no objection, it is moved. Item number 4 is an add-on Mill Creek Phase 3. Mr. Blaylock.
Yes, we have here, Mr. Edwin Henry is here as the developer of Pace Mill Creek Phase 3, and as he's coming to the podium, if you will, just take my PowerPoint and I'll just lay the brief outline of the specific request and then allow him to elaborate on it. Thank you. Pace Mill Creek was a phased development from Education Drive. It's just southwest of Sims Middle and SS Dixon. We have Pace Mill Boulevard or Parkway, a single entrance into the development, which was developed as phases 1 and 2. This is the Phase 3 that we were discussing. The initial language of the LDC, which is the issue at hand, was the continuation of existing roadways and interconnectivity within subdivisions. That is the specific language. This is the 1998 preliminary plat that was submitted for the overall, and as it was phased, this is the current overall for Phase 3 being submitted that excluded that interconnectivity to Todd Street. Todd is a street that runs from the Lane Road there all the way to Berry Hill, providing a second entrance into his subdivision. And this is the preliminary plat that was submitted, and this is the potential connection, the approximate location of Todd as related to that previous slide. And Mr. Henry here is requesting that he not connect to Todd Street. He not connect, which would require variance from the LDC.
Mr. Henry.
Push this button right here.
Let it turn red.
Turn your red light on. Push the button till you get a red light.
Turn it on. Okay, it's on now. Okay. Sorry about that. Edwin Henry, 4229 Highway 90. I'm here representing the Homeowners Association, not the developer this morning. I am the officer in charge of Homeowners Association. And we have a petition of approximately 80 some odd homeowners in the current phase of Pace Mill Creek that's requested this access not be made. The development order issued in '98, just to clarify a couple of things, Roger, if I can, that development order expired. I'm not sure if you're aware. We worked with Mike in the office, but this preliminary plat is not being issued under that development order. It's under a current or more recent request for a new development order. So we're not working under that '98 development order. You agree with that? Okay, I just want to be sure we're on the same page. So since we've got a new development order, that access is up for question. We're requesting a new development order. The main reason the connection's not being requested is requesting not to being tied in by the Homeowners Association is because Pace Mill Creek is a private subdivision. It's not county maintained. The streets are all maintained by the Homeowners Association. All the infrastructure in the subdivision, the park, and the other features in the neighborhood is private and maintained by the Homeowners Association. And the Homeowners Association is concerned, and this is stated in the petition that's signed by the homeowners. Roger, you have a copy of that petition? Yeah, okay. The Homeowners Association would have to maintain, additional wear and tear on the streets by additional traffic from county public right-of-ways if we make this a thoroughfare. And of course, they don't feel like that's right. They should have to have additional wear and tear on the streets by connecting to a public right-of-way when they're a public private neighborhood. And all their roads are maintained by their fees. They pay fees for that. So that would just increase the amount of money they would have to pay in fees to maintain their neighborhood, which they've voted to keep private. And that's the main consideration. The subdivision has a boulevard entrance, as you can see on the plat. It has a dual access within a 80-foot right-of-way, separated by an 8-foot median. So there is a dual access. If one of the entrance lanes or exit lanes were to be blocked, you could travel the other side in the event of an emergency. And I think the most recent subdivision has been developed in this fashion in the county is Ashley Plantation, has a similar boulevard entrance, dual and exit, 300, 400 lots, somewhere in that neighborhood going into it off of Quintet Road.
Comments from the board?
So I guess what we're asking is a waiver of this requirement. Is that correct, Roger? A waiver of this requirement from the County Commission in the approval of this preliminary plat.
All right, I'll tell you what I think we ought to do with this, and then we'll open up comments from the other commissioners. I think we'll continue this to Thursday with the stipulation that on Thursday, we're going to move this into the next set of meetings so we get this on the internet, get the public up to speed on what we're talking about, so we don't pull any surprises on anybody. And then we will take this item up in the next set of meetings, and that way it will be thoroughly aired and vetted. I think that's the best way to handle it. And comments from the board?
Is there any questions I can take back to the homeowners? They're going to ask me after this meeting if you guys have any questions.
Commissioner Williamson.
Okay, this is for interconnectivity. even though this is a private subdivision, it still could be gated or fenced off, or even maybe just a egress, ingress, right-of-way that's, could be used for emergency. Since there's only one way in and out of this area, I just think in the future for emergency purposes, it would be best maybe to at least provide the right-of-way. It doesn't have to be opened, or it could even be gated, like I said, if it was. But for interconnectivity, I just think for as many more homes or folks as you're going to be adding this one area, to only have one way in and out is really not for safety. To me, I'd be concerned about that.
And again, there is two ways in, a way in and a way out that's separate, divided by an 8-foot median, very similar to Ashley Plantation, which this board has recently approved. The only concern I have about the gate is an emergency exit. There's a number of neighborhoods around here, I say number, several. One I developed 30-something years ago called Metron Estates that has a gate there, and emergency vehicles don't have a key to that gate. So I don't know how you make sure all emergency vehicles has a key to the gate. It just doesn't seem practical to me. And they spend more time trying to get through a gate than they would just driving out.
You keep mentioning Ashley Plantation. They still would, if there were other subdivisions that were added or could be added connecting to those, they would still be required to meet our ordinance. So the in and out, as far as the two lanes or in and out, to me that doesn't play into it. I think it's still more with future use as far as emergency or connectivity.
Well, sir, Commissioner Lyncher.
How many homes, when it is completely built out, how many homes are going to be in there?
The additional phase is 151 sites.
Total?
We have 87 in the existing phase, so 87 plus 151, 221, what's that, 221, something like that neighborhood.
Okay. Is there a light at the boulevard entrance?
It's
Is
lit.
that a signalized intersection?
Is there a red light?
Yeah.
No, there's not a red light at the boulevard entrance. That's the entrance into, it's on Education Lane going into Sims Middle School and the Dixon, if you're familiar with that, it's off of Shamuckla Highway.
Okay.
And no, there's no red light there.
Thank you.
The entrance to this subdivision doesn't border a main thoroughway.
All right, well, if I understood the issue correctly, it's going to require a variance, so this is going to have to go through the board, through our variance board, and then bring it back.
No. Let's make sure the way I understood it later, this is not something that would have to go through the planning and zoning board?
That's correct. This is a design variance.
I still would be more comfortable carrying this forward to the next set of meetings, getting it on the internet so the public is fully informed, and then we'll move on from there and deal with these little issues
And I understand that this is not a county-maintained road, and I understand the concerns of the folks that live there, but I also think that they should take in consideration if there are or was emergency and they had no other way in and out, because that would be my main concern is for safety. Other than that, I completely understand them wanting to keep it private and not have through traffic, and I really don't think that would be what it would be for anyways. I think it's for just future for emergency.
I'm sure that we can work that out. We can build a gate, chain it, and let them cut it if they need to come through the fire, police, whatever, to keep traffic out of it. But
When's the next meeting? So I can pass that along.
I believe that would be August the 5th would be the committee meeting, and August the 8th would be the regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I guess I'll make this, so we'll just,
We can just pull it.
can we pull it? We don't have to have, all right?
Well, he won't need to come back. No action on Thursday.
No action required for Thursday. And thank you, Mr. Henry.
But we'll have it on the agenda for the 5th, Edmund.
Okay, the last item on the engineer's report is also an add-on landfill gas collection. Mr. Blaylock.
Yes, we've received our landfill gas bids, and we're recommending award to the low bidder. And I'll have that name just one moment here, as soon as I pull it up. Yes, the American Environmental Group. as low bidder meeting specification in the amount of $1,275,547.
Discussion from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lynch.
this would be funded from the enterprise fund?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct? Not general fund money?
That's correct, sir.
Any further discussion? I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
And that concludes the engineer's report.
Thank you. Next is Public Service Committee, Commissioner Lynchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is discussion of BOCC accepting grant funding from state for Emergency Management Performance Award, or EMPA, and Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG, and authorized signature of all related documents. There's backup in your agenda. Unless there are any questions, I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 2 is discussion of requests from Santa Rosa Health Department that requests Animal Services act as the agency to release quarantined animals, and acceptance and authorization of the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Any questions from the board? I have a couple of questions that I'll take up between now and Thursday, but I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 3, discussion of approval of the SHIP second mortgage subordination request for the property located at 6409 Linwood Circle in Milton. I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 4, discussion of approval of the SHIP second mortgage subordination request for the property located at 5685 Eagle Drive in Milton. I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 5, discussion of approval of the SHIP short sale request for the property located at 5473 Mulat Road in Milton. I move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 6, discussion of approval of the 2013 Escambia Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for Housing and Community Development, and authorization for chairman to sign all related documentation. I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
And item 7 is discussion of approval of the SHIP annual report and authorized signature of all related documents. I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
And that concludes public services, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynchard. Public Works, Commissioner Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 items today. The first item is discussion of amendment number 1 to the annual contract WS 779 with Florida Department of Corrections regarding term and compensation for 1 inmate work squad and supervisor. We have backup on that. It's self-explanatory. I recommend we move this to Thursday's agenda without objection if there's no other discussion.
Hearing none, it passes.
And item 2 is discussion of the change order number 4 for Aereo Training and Rental Incorporated on the Baghdad Sewer Expansion Project for additional time due to weather delays, and for a project scope expansion on Oak Street as described in the attachment from Kenneth Horn and Associates. In the backup is self-explanatory. I can understand due to the weather delays extension, and also from the scope of work being expanded on Oak Street. I think this is a viable change order, and I recommend we move this to Thursday agenda without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Williamson. Final item today is Budget and Financial Management Committee, and that's item number 1, discussion of the expenditure check register. That'll be ready for Commissioner Gold's signature Thursday when he returns. And I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. That concludes the agenda. Public input, comments. Step forward, please, sir, and tell us who you are and where you live. I need one.
Hi, my name is William B. Christie. I reside at 2973 Coral Strip Parkway, Gulf Breeze, Florida. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island. I need your help to locate a stormwater culvert in my neighborhood. I sent a request to Public Works. Mr. Avis Whitfield denied my request. I sent it to Commissioner Cole on Thursday with no response. You may recall we have an agreement for a lawsuit I filed. I am providing you a response from Mr. Danheiser that was the cause for action of the lawsuit. My email stated Wednesday, May 11th, 2005. Dear Mr. Danheiser, here's a plan of the driveway for 2971 Coral Strip Parkway that I obtained from the Building Inspection Department. As you can see, it shows one connection with a taper towards the connection to the street. The actual driveway I sent pictures of is much larger. The entire front yard is 100 feet, and all of it is paved driveway, except for 2 side yards of approximately 5 feet and a fountain in the middle of the circle. There is no place for the stormwater retention or land to absorb it. It flows directly to the street. The water runs down the street and onto my driveway and floods my property. Here's his response, dated Thursday, May 12, 2005. Dear Mr. Christie, I spoke with Avis Whitfield. He advised that the subject driveway only contributes a small percentage of the stormwater traveling down the road. The runoff from the other homes, driveways, roads, etc., contribute to the vast majority. As a result of the lawsuit, we have an agreement. I've provided copies of the agreement, provided copies of the drawings, also provided a notice to sue to enforce the terms of the agreement. The outfall depicted by the engineer that prepared the stormwater report, I could not locate it. According to the engineer, culverts carrying public stormwater have to be 15 inches or larger in diameter. Should be very easy to find. Gentlemen, I need your help to get this thing located because in my neighborhood, the homeowner is responsible for the stormwater, and the county has entered into an agreement saying you're going to be responsible for it. It still flows down the street and still contributes and floods my property.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Whitfield.
just let me give you a little background on this. Sometime back, we had already installed significant drainage improvements in front of Mr. Christie's residence as part of a settlement of a lawsuit that he had against the county. The drainage improvements that we installed were designed by his engineer, certified as his engineer as being done correctly. And we strongly, from Public Works, our position is that we strongly feel that all of the drainage issues that the county is obligated to solve in this area have been solved, and there's absolutely no reason for us to locate this culvert that Mr. Christie has asked us to locate. It serves no purpose for us. If the culvert exists, it's irrelevant because all the drainage problems at his area have been solved. He sent us one photo of a small puddle in his yard that he calls flooding. Doesn't even cover the cut grass, the mowed grass. We don't deem that to be a flooding problem. That's no worse than anyone's yard in Santa Rosa County after you get a rain, a small puddle in the yard. We don't deem this to be a flooding problem, and we feel like that any further work, any attempt to locate this culvert that he's asked us to locate would just be a waste of county resources. Furthermore, if we were to try to do something, though it would be unnecessary, we feel that it would have an impact on some of his neighbors. It would just be not in their best interest. It would be tearing out their driveways, reshaping the right-of-way ditches in front of their yards when they don't have a problem. That would be absolutely ridiculous under these circumstances where Mr. Christie deems a tiny puddle in his yard as a flooding problem.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. Ms. Jones, are you familiar with this or aware of this problem?
Yes, I've corresponded with Mr. Christie for quite a number of years now. I'm aware of the settlement agreement, probably not aware of the entire history of the case, but aware of the settlement agreement and the county's compliance with the settlement agreement back in 2005, that time frame. I've talked to Mr. Whitfield about it numerous times and feel like the county is compliant.
So what's your advice to this board regarding this matter at this time? Do we have an obligation or anything to pursue this, or where are we legally?
Mr. Christie has requested that we locate a culvert. I have talked to Mr. Whitfield about that, and he's just talked to you about it as well. I don't believe the county is under any obligation to go forward with the request.
Thank you. Any discussion from the commission? Mr. Christie, we appreciate your input. Thank you, sir.
I have one thing to say.
Yes, sir.
We have an agreement. It says the county is to alleviate or eliminate the stormwater in front of 2973 Coral Strip Parkway. You've installed an inlet between 2971, 2973 Coral Strip Parkway. I believe it was Commissioner Williams that agreed to send 2 Public Works employees. We did a test. We deposited approximately 350 gallons of water from the offending driveway, and not one drop of that water went into the culvert or inlet that's described in the agreement. The engineer that supposedly was hired by me was actually hired by my attorney, and my attorney worked with Mr. Danheiser to make sure that I had very limited action regarding the enforcement of the agreement. But the agreement does say the county will not perform work that will violate state, federal, or local law. And the engineer's drawings that were attached to the contract signed by Don Salter were not signed and sealed drawings in accordance with state law.
Mr. Christie, we're not going to stand here and debate this with you. You hired an attorney. He represented you to your satisfaction or your dissatisfaction. If you're not satisfied with him, that's an issue between you and him, and you need another attorney to solve that. We have heard your complaint. We've heard the comments from Mr. Whitfield. We've heard the comments from our attorney. And again, I appreciate your inputs, but if I understand it correctly, we prior boards, the people of Santa Rosa County entered into an agreement with you, and we fulfill that agreement. And I'm told by advice of counsel that we have no other obligations, and that having been said, that will conclude this particular portion. And
thank you for your time.
You're welcome. We appreciate your inputs. Anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, we are adjourned.